Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Gill Cummings Bell. Hi. Hi, Gareth.
Hello, Jill. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm in sunny England, or not so sunny today. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Yes, joining us all the way from the UK, all the way from very close to where I was born and grew up. So there you go. We're gonna dive in now for everybody listening today. Jill, obviously joining us as you heard from the UK. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jill, and today we're going to dive into a little bit of a different twist for the episode today. So typically we've been having lots of experts on, and Jill is definitely that, but lots of kind of fitness experts and lots of member stories. But today we're going to go on a little bit of a history lesson of Gareth and Nicky, and part of that is where Jill comes into that story. So before we do that, let me give you a little bit of an introduction to who Jill is, and then we're going to dive into some awesome content from there. So Jill is an exercise physiologist and educator specializing in clinical exercise, group exercise, and education, and is also the longest standing educator in the UK in these fields. So pretty impressive stat, and that's how we kind of got connected. You're also the owner of 3 successful businesses. So that is Drummond Clinic, the studio at Drummond, and also Drummond Education. And really just honestly an expert in so many different fields of health and fitness, and predominantly that education bracket. And when I started in the fitness industry, we didn't have a lot of that stuff. This was 20 plus years ago, and it was all very new. And you've really pioneered so many of those things. So thank you for doing that for the fitness industry. And we'll dive into a little bit. Is there anything else off of that introduction that you'd love to share, kind of about you and where you're at right now in the industry? And then we'll talk a little bit about Gareth and Nicky's history.
Yes. Well, I think, that was a great introduction. Thank you, Gareth, for that. I think a lot of that comes with age, so I'm not so sure I really want to shout out about all of that. But I am one of the longest standing educators in the UK who's still doing the same thing. There's lots of other people still here, but they've kind of moved into different areas. And I don't really know whether that says I love my job or I'm just boring, but I firmly believe it's because I love my job. Yes, and in all of that time, I'm still a group exercise instructor. And I think that's where I started. It's where I'll end. And it's what I love the most, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely, for me as a fitness professional growing up in the UK, that's definitely where, I saw you, in those earlier years with the group exercise, with presenting, and something that I was always passionate about exploring. So, that was definitely a big impact in my journey. So I'll kind of start there, and we'll talk a little bit about Nicky as well. She wasn't able to join us today, but she sent me some notes. But when I started the industry, so I was just turned 18 when I went on my first gym instructor's course. That was a long time ago now. And we weren't connected at this time, but I went through a little bit of that kind of learning curve of stepping into the industry and doing, different courses. And they were very new then. I mean, this was 1997, maybe. So fitness instructing courses, personal training courses were all very new. But I took a few things. I kind of went on my journey through gym instructing, some personal training, and some fitness management. And then I was very fortunate to be invited on, and you can correct me if your memory is better than mine, Jill, but I was invited to come along to a training course that you were running through Drummond Education at the time. And I'm sure you can share a bit about that transition into, different areas of the industry. But for an indoor cycling course that was being taught by a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours at the time. And I came along, and I didn't really know why I was coming. I was like, I'll come along. Yeah, I'll join in. This will be fun. And I really knew nothing. I was probably 24 at the time. I was young and fresh, a fresh instructor in the industry. I'd run a few years of teaching, and I kind of came along, and really I just delivered a little bit of the course, and, you included me so graciously. And here we are. And now I'm 40, and we got to this point. But I was, very, very fortunate to be thrown into the education side of things. And I think that story's fairly accurate, but it was a long time ago. What does your side of the story look like, Jill?
Yeah, I think I remember meeting you prior to that course, even, I think, at the leisure centre. I can't remember the name of the leisure centre, or the other side of Reading.
Oh, wow. Would it have been Riverside, something like that. I can't even remember.
Something like that. And I just remember meeting this awesome indoor cycling instructor. And I think that's what I remember you most for just being this awesome, energetic, motivated indoor cycling instructor at the time, which is, so the first point of our meeting. And then just thinking, oh my God, this guy's going to be amazing, and wanting him part of the team, hence throwing you in at the deep end as a very young lad and saying, right, you've got to jump on the course and do some teaching and everything else. And I think for, both yourself and Nicky, not dissimilar. As you say, it was early days in education, and building a team, a quality teaching team was the most important thing for me. So when you did see instructors who you knew had such amazing skill sets to share, it just was too much of an opportunity to let them escape.
Yeah, for sure. And that's funny. And what that just makes me continuously come back to think of, and this is such a great message for not just fitness professionals, this is anybody in any walk of life, is you never know who's watching. So whatever you're doing, you're passionate about it. We all have those days where, quite frankly, we don't want to be there. Like, we have a rough day, we lack of sleep, we're tired, teaching loads of classes. But if you can show up with such a great level of energy and, really kind of wear your passion on your sleeve, you never know who's watching. You never know what opportunities that those days lead to, right? And I at the time had not really delved into anything outside of club level teaching, so it made a big impact on me, and was able to get into that, that side of it via what we did together. So yeah, it was and I'm not sure how much you're aware of that kind of impact on me, because at 24 I was young, and funny story, we didn't tell anybody how old I was I think we ever told anyone. If anybody ever asked, you just said, just if anyone asks, you're 30. Okay, great, sure. So we always joked about that, and it was something that at 24 I struggled a lot with my self-confidence and belief, and I was just kind of doing my thing, but I was in my bubble. So to have someone reassure you, to say, hey, come in and do this thing and jump into it, and just wanting someone else to share that passion was a big impact on me. And people still laugh to this day when they hear me talk about insecurities and being a bit introverted, but being able to get up on stage in front of hundreds of people it takes a lot of that kind of character building, right? For people to believe in you and say, to push you out there into something that's uncomfortable, and to do that. And from my side, it takes some bravery to do that. So, where do you, Gill, sit on the side of how do you release control of that to people as a business owner, as an educator, and that reputation you had as a presenter and an educator in the industry? Is that can be quite a brave step, just to push someone out there and trust them 100%. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, Gareth, because I remember those days, and I think I've got to say I've done it many times since, and still continue to recruit people in exactly the same way. Sometimes sometimes I can go through a whole months and months of recruiting, and staged interviews, and you can pick up somebody, and then somewhere down the line you realize actually they didn't have the skill set you thought they were going to have. And then there's people you meet who you instantly think, yeah, they've got the skill set. And it's really interesting as I've got older, because it's a very trendy word for how you feel now, and people talk about it a lot, don't they? The imposter syndrome. Whereas when I was young and you were young, and when I first spotted you, we didn't really call it imposter syndrome. It was just a kind of, I remember somebody saying to me, you have to grow into your CV. So you have this desire to go somewhere, and you start off at whichever end of the journey. You start off at the ground roots level, and then your desire to continue in that journey is evident from day one. And sometimes jumping in with both feet whilst you feel insecure, you learn that by baptism of fire, I think is the word, and you learn by real experiential learning, rather than going through months and months of being taught and work, theory and all of that side. So I do think you can spend months learning and training to do something, and the first time you go in front of the public, whoever your public are, you still feel like you never did any of months of those trainings. So there's an element sometimes, I think, just get in front of the public and do it. And it's a bit like that with the courses, get in front of the teachers and do it, because that's when you'll really, really find your feet. And whilst you feel an imposter, as I said, you know, they talk about imposter syndrome now, I don't think you're ever an imposter if you have that desire and passion to do it and you have a skill set to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so valuable, Gill, so valuable that, you know, you can't really be an imposter, right? If you have a desire, and it's so true. And I think honestly, having dissected this a fair bit, and that, you know, that phrase of imposter syndrome I think it comes down to a whole lot to do with comparison. And we get stuck in this comparing ourselves to others rather than saying, I have this skill set, it's somewhat unique, and I have a desire to grow. But it's just, this is me and this is how I'm going to do it. And obviously you fit within a framework. This is all important. So we're following guidelines and delivering what needs to be delivered. But the way in which we do that is going to be very different from person to person. And I got stuck in that place of that desire to want to be the same as other people in the industry, rather than saying, these are a great inspiration, but I'm going to be me. And it took me many years to get to there. So yeah, that was really powerful message for anyone looking to aspire in anything, I think, you know, regardless of whether it's health and fitness or not. And, you know, and being surrounded by people that support that and push you out there, because, you know, it was a sharp learning curve. Let's be clear. And there was a lot of just go do it, like, okay, I'm here. And, you know, that led to me going on and doing, you know, teacher training education and going through those courses with yourself and, you know, the rest of the team, and having so many great mentors that just kind of took me under their wing and took me on those courses, and, you know, had great fun traveling all over, delivering courses and doing conferences and, you know, all the other fun stuff. And, you know, and the education part was big for me at the time. I was 25 probably, and I hadn't done, other than failing pretty badly at school, I hadn't really done much education that wasn't on the job at the time. So to go into that formal world and, you know, study for a lot and learn that information was, again, it was that having someone behind you to say, yeah, you know what, sit down, learning in a classroom might not be your strong suit, but, you know, we're going to navigate it and get you there so we can help you enhance these other great skills that you already have. Now, I want to jump into Nicky a little bit now as well. So that's a bit of my backstory, and I'm sure we'll get more into that. But so Nicky also had a somewhat similar journey in the industry. However, she came from a world of competitive dancing and performing arts, and she continued to do that from school level right the way up into her 20s, and then fell on an industry, much like me actually, just kind of fell into the fitness industry. And she was very fortunate back in her early days. This would have been early 2000s. She was very fortunate to have you as a mentor, to come in as a tutor to her workplace for what was then Holmes Place, which is now, I think, Virgin, together mixed in there. And for you to come in and tutor her through her gym instructing, which is something, obviously, although it was movement based, was very new. And, you know, and I know that she credits that experience and that support to you, you know, hugely. It means a lot to her, because she was in an industry totally where she just thought, well, if I can teach dance class, I can teach group fitness. Like, this is going to be easy. And soon found out that it wasn't quite the same, and it's quite a slightly different skill set. And, you know, and she went through failing her exams and having to learn, you know, all these amazing new things, and, you know, anatomy and physiology at a different level, and remembering all these things. And, you know, I know she struggled with a lot of the theory stuff of that, again, being a very practical, performing based person. I'd love to hear your side, because she's not here and she can't defend herself, so we can talk about her. Is your side of meeting Nicky and your kind of first experiences of her, and how that kind of led us down that journey as well.
Yeah. I remember Nicky quite distinctly, actually, and I remember her being quite a serious person, which she probably didn't realise, and, you know, isn't. But I just remember her appearing quite a serious, intense thinker of things, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And it's really interesting because Holmes Place, I think, is now a block of flats.
Oh, really?
In Maidenhead, so I don't think it even exists as a Virgin club anymore. But yes, we started there, and we had our business had a working relationship because it was our local club, so we were down there quite a lot. So got to know Nicky really well. And again, as a group exercise teacher, it was interesting, you know, taking Nicky through those failure points into her achievements, if that makes sense, in those early stages, because for a lot of us starting in the industry, there are two elements. There are people who come along who have come from being a participant in it and wanting to teach. And then there's people who come from a different teaching discipline to this one. And I often think it's harder to come from a different teaching discipline because you have to unlearn and then relearn a different way. And that can be quite challenging because as you know, and especially if you've got that deep, intense thought process that Nicky has, where, you know, she's learned and developed a skill set all her life as a dancer and can teach it brilliantly. And then suddenly she's got to unlearn some of those things that don't make any sense and put these other things in and pick those up again. And that can be quite a difficult path to go on. But as you know, Nicky's brilliant and you know, as the thinker she is, she just cracks everything and just comes out the other side stronger than she went in it. And that's what I've always loved about Nicky is the fact that, you know, she'll take the challenge and come out the other side. And that's what I remember most about her, really, in those early days. And I don't think ever failed anything since.
No. And, you know, and I think that's a great point, is that just in general about the failure thing is there's so many hurdles on that journey, right? But if you have that desire and that passion that we talked about, is you continue to get there and you form that model of success in whatever it is, you know. And there were failures along the way. Like I said, you know, she shared with me actually just earlier today that, you know, failing a theory exam and not wanting to carry on and not feeling it was for her. And, you know, your support and the industry support were huge in that, right? Like to continue on that journey, to get through that hurdle, rather than it being you know, stopping something it's just a hurdle along the way. We can all fail, you know, a little bit along the way. We can have those, you know, those hiccups, so to speak, but still get there. And yes, she is hugely resilient with a lot of those things, and you know, determined, right? That seriousness, absolutely. I think comes from that, right? And
it's the recognition, I think, that failure is normal. You know, it's not normal to achieve everything that we do all the time. Yeah. It is normal, you know, like every life cycle, to have ups and downs in it, and your downs are going to be some failures. And I think the more encouraged you are to understand that you're going to have failures, I think it makes you into the better person you are, really, rather than worrying about them. You know, have an expectation that you will fail at some things, but that's okay, because it's normal, and it's those things that we learn from the most, and then we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. And, you know, it was, you know, fortunate for Nicky. We kind of, you know, because me and Nicky at this point, I think she would have done her early exams. We probably didn't meet until kind of mid 2000s, something like that. So it was strange because I'd kind of gone on my journey and did my thing. And then I kind of, you know, as we shared already, you know, we kind of came together and met through, you know, mutual friends and teaching and, you know, getting involved with the education side. And then Nicky kind of turned up again after a few years. That was an interesting story, which maybe we'll share on the show another day for everyone listening. But yes. Me and Nicky kind of collided right in the middle of the fitness industry at about those kind of mid 2000s. And, you know, and then obviously now, and anyone listening is not surprised that we're now married with a child. So obviously that journey continued, which is a whole long story. But yeah, we got to the point where, you know, I was involved in what we were doing, and then Nicky kind of reappeared in your world, you know, I guess all with all that combined, and, you know, had those great opportunities to come on and do some education. And much to myself, I think having a skill set for teaching club level fitness is very different. And there was a lot of that on her side, right? Like that imposter syndrome, or that kind of self-confidence around, you know, am I at the right level to teach this to other people? Because that's the common question we get. And, you know, and I had no doubt that she'd be able to do that, you know, for all the reasons we mentioned. And, you know, we kind of came together on a lot of things, which was a lot of fun. And you gave us some really great opportunities to present together at some conferences and do some real fun things, which is super fun when you're in a relationship with someone like that. You have this connection that just kind of comes alive, right? So we did some awesome presentations, and yeah, we flew back and forward from Canada back to England a few times and did some fun stuff. So there were really pivotal moments, and, you know, and having that, it sounds kind of pretentious, but having that international presenter, you know, come over and, you know, fly and get on a plane, you know, and that was a brand new thing at I was probably about 30 at the time, maybe something. And that was a big part. And it does do a lot to feed that confidence and, you know, and understand that someone values you that much. So it made a big impact on us. So we both obviously want to share that thanks with you and with everyone at Drummond and everything that you did for us in the industry, because it was such an important part. And I don't know that you're aware how important it was.
Yeah, well, no, I certainly wasn't. And to me, you know, and it's something that in your very early days, I recognised, know, and still see, is that you were always a team. From the minute you both met, you were a team, and you've been a team ever since, I think. And so when you came to joint presenting, I remember the great conferences like Blackpool, where it was enormous fun and thousands of people, and you know, just having that great atmosphere. So for me, you equally brought as much to my business and to me personally as, you know, vice versa, because you know, the inspiration of watching both of you as a young team, you know, has just been tremendous. And to see where you are now, still as a team, still doing things together, even though you do things apart as well, you know, it's amazing. So yeah, well done.
Thank you. Yeah, and a natural progression to end up with another business, and you know, and
yes.
and doing it together, and you know, it is a lot of fun, and it is great to share that passion every day in your house. Sometimes it's hard to, I'm sure this will resonate with you as well. It's sometimes hard to draw the boundary lines around business and home when you're like, we're in our house all day, we're running the business, so it's sometimes tough to navigate, but it's definitely very fulfilling and fun. And you know, I appreciate your kind words. And you know, going back to the failure thing, and just something else that popped into my mind is when we embrace those failures, if you've never embraced those failures and let it lead to your success, anyone listening, is running your own business is a great way to do that, because you fail a lot.
Yes, you do. You soon learn what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and it is that you just have to, especially when you learn, like for me, learning a lot of new business skills that I've never had to worry about as a personal trainer and a fitness instructor in the clubs, is you never really have to worry, because as you said, you just go out there and do what you're passionate about. And my roster was always full of people because I was out there, and I had this big advantage of being a group fitness instructor and being a personal trainer and building a business. And then we switched gears a bit when we went completely online and realized that there's this thing called marketing that I had to learn how to do, which I'm in the process of learning. So, and this podcast is part of that. So welcome to the journey, everyone listening. But yeah, that leads me to an interesting point. You know, as we kind of branch off from the kind of history of Nicky and Gareth, is that kind of fitness professionals. And I'd love to talk a little to the fitness professionals that tune in and listen to the show, because you are truly a wealth of knowledge in actually applying it, as you said, still teaching regularly, but also on the education side. Is I always found personally that great model of being a fitness professional, you know, and I'm talking holistically speaking. So teaching cycling, teaching, you know, other group fitness based stuff, doing things that was predominantly at the time, and probably still is now, predominantly more dominated by females than it was males. So for me, it was still a bit of a unique thing. And then being a personal trainer, is I had this access to all these people, and I always found it to be a really great skill. But I find there is still, to this day, a fairly big divide between group fitness and personal training, and there is in North America, and I'm sure it's very similar in the UK still. Do you find that a lot with people coming on courses, and is it a conversation that you're constantly repeating about how it's good to have a skill set that goes across both?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, really, because you'll hear a lot of business people. In fact, I saw a very key business person over here the other day actually say it, and I see it a lot being said, that, you know, if you want to do well in personal training, you have to specialize and just concentrate on one thing. And actually, I found in business it's the opposite, that sometimes you have to have a number of things to feed each other. And if you only concentrate on one thing and all your eggs are in one basket, it's a very risky business strategy. And I often think that people who are multidisciplined do well. And I think teachers I've seen who do really well have started with Group X and moved into PT or Pilates or yoga or different disciplines, and attach those onto their discipline. And suddenly they have a much bigger business and one can feed the other. You know, if you're a group exercise teacher and you've got somebody in your class who says, you know, I'm struggling with this, I would love some one-to-one, you've suddenly got some PT clients. You know, and if you've done yoga as a discipline and you start to use a little bit of yoga at the end of your PT session because you're using it as your stretch component, you suddenly have a PT client who said, oh, that's amazing, I'd love to come to your yoga class. And suddenly you have this more rounded approach to business. And not, you know, certainly the last couple of years has been very worrying for a lot of teachers in business. And I just think that if you have this diverse skill set, one can feed the other and hold you up. So, you know, if one of your pedestals starts to dip a little bit, as long as you've got some others holding you, you can pick the other one up and bring it back up, if that makes sense. So in a business context, a lot of other business people in the fitness industry would say it the other way around, and I respect that. But in my experience, I definitely believe in the other way.
Yeah, and I'm on the same page as you, Gill, with that. I believe, and having seen that, and I think where maybe the interpretation of those things varies across the industry. And my experience is people say to me, well, I'm a trainer, this is what I do. And my response to them always is, no, you're not, you're a business. And that's where I think that missing gap is, right? Is that you're a business. You've got to support yourself as a business. Yes, you're a trainer. I get it. But your business is health and fitness in some capacity. And there's many parts of that, right? Because we know it isn't just about squats and deadlifts. Like, we've got all these other components that are important, your lifestyle, your sleep habits, your nutrition. Like, you need to be able to, and you don't need to be an expert in everything. And yes, you can niche into certain things. However, if you can supply that and know that you can give your clientele what they need in many different aspects. And really, the truth of it is they all feed into one another, because
they do. I mean, if people say to me, what profession do you work in? I say I work in the people's profession. I work with people every day.
Yeah.
And we're in the people business. And quite rightly, as you said, you have to run your business. Otherwise, your bank manager is never going to be pleased and nobody's going to pay your mortgage. So, you know, you have to run the business, but you are in the people business. And I think to be working in the people business, I just think you have to be a compassionate, giving human being. And that's where you have to work from. You know, you can build your skill and you can learn lots of new technical information, but people come to you as a trainer, as a group exercise teacher, because they like and believe in you, and you build a relationship with them. So business is very much about relationship building, running the business, and working with people, and you've got to do those things to run your business.
Yeah, and you make such a great point, because I share this when, you know, many years of teaching other instructors, and I got the pleasure of working in a personal training department for many years for a big organization. And when I did that, I focused on small group based personal training, and my message was always that, you know, when you get that field of people that you get to market to. So it's a really great add-on. Although you're into one-to-one, this is like your constant pool of people. So there's one massive part of it. I said, and you also get to impact you impact more people and the way they feel. And again, when it comes back to people, it's about this, because you might be an expert in, let's say, squat technique. However, no one ever comes to an environment and says, I love the way you taught me how to squat. No one ever says that. 22 years in the industry, no one's ever said that about me. People say, I love how empowered I feel. I love how strong I felt. I felt how included I felt. You know, whatever it is, right? It's about the way you make people feel. And, you know, no, people won't be any strangers to lots of quotes around that. But if you make people feel a certain way, and like you said, you serve people, then you get to expose your skill set, because you can be an expert and have no clients. So.
Yeah, exactly. And people need to be at the center of every business.
Yeah, it's so important. And, you know, dialing more into that, I think we can all be more successful. And, you know, and that leads into things that I'm learning about as a, you know, fairly new business owner, is exactly that. Marketing leans on those things, right? How do people feel, or what are you trying to solve for them, right? They're going to have something about the way they feel around a certain thing, whatever they want to work on. If you can connect to that, it helps you with that spin off to marketing. So yeah, definitely look at our skills and look at it outside of just you know, even outside of, you know, group versus one-on-one or whatever it might be, but also those people skills, those communications. And that leads into another great question that I had wrote down. Look at this, it's naturally flowing to my questions. It's perfect. As a, you know, as a long-term educator of fitness professionals, this is something that always intrigues me, is where do you see personally, and, you know, as a business, where do you see the biggest gaps? Maybe we've already answered this with the last question, but where do you see the gaps in, you know, fitness professionals, and where anyone listening that's looking to get into fitness or is already in it and looking to enhance their skills, where would serve them well to kind of lean into from a new skill perspective?
I think that the biggest, one of the biggest gaps here now is therapy exercise, where exercise is seen as being restorative, seen as being therapeutic, seen as entering the wellness continuum. You know, it's not just about bashing the hell out of something and doing a HIIT session. You know, yeah, we can all do that. We can all burn calories. We can, you know, we can all get stronger and pick up weights. But you know, life is about living it and being well. And I think there's a huge gap. And I think slowly here in the UK, that's where exercise is going in the future. That as well as doing those things, because don't get me wrong, we need those things as well, but it's the small things that will keep you doing the big things. So if you're going to do these things you love, like big sports, big activities, you know, family fun runs, great sports holidays, play with the kids, whatever it is, it's the small things that restore your body and your mind that allow you to do the big things in life. So I think exercise as a therapy approach is where a lot of exercise is going to go for the future.
Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective. And I think strangely enough, it leans into something that we've seen great success with recently as a business, which is having one-on-one mobility training as an offering. And we have a lot of group based, you know, we run basically what is a virtual studio. So we have lots of people come in, they do their group based workouts with the rest of the community. But there are these people saying, hey, I'm managing life with a little bit of pain. And I feel like there's not a lot of longevity in, you know, my body and what I'm doing, but I want to keep doing those things I love, those big things, that the endorphin highs, and I feel strong. How do I keep going down this path? And, you know, as you said, you know, using it kind of as a therapy, because it is good for your mindfulness around movement. You know, Nicky's doing a lot of work with fascia and movement, and, you know, studying a lot on that side and using it in that mobility training to help people, right? To help people move better, to assess how they're moving and support that, and notice things like, you know, balance in the body. And it's proving massively, you know, successful for the clients, but also for us as a business, as you said, because I think we have, as an industry, hopefully, have created this awareness around all those things that you spoke of, right? Is that understanding that longevity is such a important part, because, you know, we've all beaten our bodies up, jumping around on concrete floors way too much, and, you know, are suffering the results of it now later in life. So I'm aware of that
exactly.
too. And that's so many group exercise people are in the same boat, and people that have done it regularly. So I really like that. Now, we see a few things in kind of North America now where there are more courses leaning towards that. There's a lot more things like functional movement assessments and fascia-based courses. What does the kind of landscape in the industry in the UK look like, and what are you doing at Drummond to kind of lean into that side of the industry?
Yeah, again, the same. We've got lots of the fascial and functional courses here in the UK. They're very trendy. They're very fashionable. I think because of, you know, one of our businesses being clinical and therapy based, which is one of our largest and longest standing businesses here, we've brought that into the education side. And so for us, therapy courses now, therapy exercise courses for fitness instructors are, for us, one of our growth areas. We're seeing more and more instructors do it. Yeah, I would agree. And as we said, right, because though that message that you're speaking of, the kind of, you know, you are a business,
a business of people and delivering that, is you need to have all these aspects, because we want to be able to do it. And actually, one of our coaches at the Knock Academy does a course which is called Troubleshooting Movement, which has been really popular with the group-based people, because they're looking around a group of people and saying, I want to be able to help these people a little bit more and give them a bit more, and and again have those different fields to the business. And yeah, I definitely see that in what you do. And also we can, some people will remember that back, I don't remember when it was now, was it early this year or last year, that you did a conference for Pilates and using it in a therapy environment, and having a lot of great presenters come on and do that. And I believe that's going to make a reappearance as well again, which is great, because I think that's an incredible skill set, not just for Pilates instructors, but for everybody. And those sorts of things are growing, and we're so accessible to it. I was very fortunate that you invited me to come and present at that, and was able to do that from my basement here, basement studio, and get that access, right? It's so I think we look at the last couple of years in the world has been hard to navigate, but it's also given these amazing opportunities for me to do that, because it might have been a long time, or maybe even never again, to come back and present, for things that you're doing, and, to get to do that again was awesome. So I hope that, we see that as the industry as a benefit, and something that we've gained massively from the last 2 years.
Yeah, we've all learned that new skill set, haven't we, of delivering online. And but as you said, it also created great opportunities, because for me to have you back presenting as part of our team was just amazing, because we kind of lost you to the Canadians, really. The Canadians got lucky and we lost you. So, to get you back at ease, that's a thankful technology move, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we can all be thankful to Zoom. And
for somebody my age to learn the new technology has been, more than challenging on more than one occasion.
Oh yeah, for everybody. Yeah, definitely. It was definitely something to navigate. That's also why we invested with the software when we opened the business. We're like, I'm going to need a software. I'm like, no, this is not going to happen. I need someone to help me organize this. So I just press the buttons and it does the things.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. You're right. It's so great. And, we're presenting live in the summer, but looking forward here in Canada, but looking forward to doing more of those things. And there is so many opportunities for us to grow in the industry. And yes, there was struggles, and it's just reconnected so many people. I've reconnected with so many people as a result of the business, the podcast, presenting, and doing all these things. So yeah, it's been a steep learning curve, but much like anything, we as we said, you fail along the way, and then you just get up and keep trying, and then you create those successes along the way. So really important. Now, talking about the Pilates, therapy conference online and other things that you're doing at Drummond. And I'd love for you to share a little bit, Gill, about what else you're doing, where everyone can find out more information about you, about Drummond Education, about the clinic, especially for listeners. We have some listeners in the UK, as well as other people finding some stuff online. So tell us where everyone can find you.
Excellent. Yeah, so we have three, as you said at the beginning, 3 businesses. So therefore 3 websites, all completely, and 3 different Facebooks. So we have Drummond Physiotherapy, which is our clinical side. And we've built quite a unique business with that here in the UK. It's a one-stop shop. It's quite a unique facility. We have our own 4,500 square facility. It's got lots of therapists working in there. We can look at everything from top to bottom. We've got lots of the latest scientific equipment, scientific data collection. We can look deeper at things. So that's a really key part of our business. Well, that's a business on its own right. And then we have the Drummond Education, which has also been a long-standing business, and we've had that since education courses started here in the UK. And we teach all the fitness qualifications that are government recognised. We also teach workshops or online workshops, conferences, all of those sorts of things. And then we have our third business, which is what I call the fun side of both businesses, really. We have a studio, which is now a Pilates reformer studio. And so we've got all the reformers, and that's public facing, and we've got classes all day and in the evening. And that's the studio at Drummond. So we have those 3 businesses. And I've got to say, as an educator, it's still teaching group exercise classes that makes me an educator, because I don't think if I gave up teaching that 2 years later I could stand in a classroom and teach exercise teachers what to do for their job. I think the important thing for me is I need to know what it's like to run a studio. I need to know what the trauma of the last 2 years has done. I need to know how to interact with the public in a group. And, you know, I need to keep all of those skill sets. And, you know, we go back to that very common fitness line: if you don't use it, you lose it. So for me, working across all three businesses is a major part of what I do, but it's what keeps me in the forefront of what I do, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that it's just, as you said, it's that evolution, bringing all those things together, you know, the clinical side. And, you know, we always, you know, we touch on it, right? It's a business, and we have to look at how those other bits support, right? It's like a little ecosystem within itself. So yeah, I love that. And I will make sure that everyone listening, you'll have access. I'll put all the links in the show notes, so you'll be able to go check out what Gill is up to, what Drummond are up to, you know, courses and conferences. And then, like I said, there's online stuff. You'll see those things. We promote them and put them on our channels as well. So if you're in the UK and you're looking for, you know, education that gets you to be a lifelong fitness professional, just like me and Nikki, and send you down that path, then definitely go check it out. And also the online stuff is there, workshops, conferences, and all of those wonderful things. So I recommend you checking them out. And really, is there anything else you'd like to share, Gill, before we wrap up the show?
No, just to say thank you for having me in Canada. And I know the time difference is it's just the morning for you, and I hope you've had your breakfast.
Yeah.
For me, it's about finishing work time very soon. So no, thank you. It's been lovely to see you on screen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned, you know,
Pleasure.
we're very grateful for, you know, everything that, you know, you've done for us in the industry, and also just coming on to share and staying connected. So thank you so much for that, Gill. Everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate the support as always. If you got something from the episode, or you know a fitness professional that's really going to benefit, or, you know, you want to learn a little bit more about Nikki and Gareth's, you know, history, then share this episode with someone you love and care about. We really appreciate your support, and we will catch you on the next episode.